Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Ron Paul Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to have you here.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Very well,
Good.
and we have a few things. We're going to start off with foreign policy, even though there are some domestic problems here and a few political problems, and still problems over there at the Fed. They seem to be getting away with you-know-what, because they're still in business, and nothing happens without the Fed. Who's going to pay the bills? The Fed, unlimited amount of money that they pay the bills. And it's a wonder that the money has any value. But it's having less every day. We've been following several things, right? Most recently, the Middle East and Iran and things going like this. But there were some bombings here just recently, and one big one was a Hamas leader. In Iran.
In Iran, yes.
So this is a big deal, because this is sort of the beginning or the restarting of a thing that keeps going on. But it's constant, and I look at this, when I see these things going back and forth. You do this, you do that, but you don't do this. But if you step over the line, that's worse than this. So, but when I see the bombing and the killing and the deliberate assassinations, which Israel has done before, I call that diplomacy with vengeance. It's not all one-sided. Every side has to defend itself, and that means that there will be killings and trying to get a better position. But this sort of sets back some of the effort. The Republicans didn't do a whole lot to improve the effort to at least try to talk to the Iranians. So it's a mess. It's getting worse, and we've been citing this issue for months now, that not only in Ukraine do we worry about it expanding, but the Middle East, and I guess this is related to the Middle East. It has Iran involved in Israel. So this is bad news, because it's not over until it's over, and it may be a significant elevation of tensions over there, and maybe the effort to just send a message and drop a bomb here and there might turn into something much bigger, because the animosity and the hatred seems to be ingrained, and it's hard to find optimism about how this would work out, especially when there are factions. As soon as one side wants to help or have an open hand and maybe negotiate and talk about getting along and maybe peace in the Middle East, it stirs up a lot more animosity and assassinations and all this mess. So I see this as a setback for peace.
Yeah, well, Netanyahu went home with 58 standing ovations after his speech in Congress, and it was a speech promising more war, more killing, and more destruction. 58 standing ovations, and very correctly, he went home and said, the U.S. government has given me the green light to do whatever I want. And that's the way anyone would interpret those 58 standing ovations. So he went home and he decided to go for broke. And that's exactly what he's done. Now put on this next first clip. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This is what happened overnight, or late in the evening for us at least. Strike in Iran kills Hamas's leading advocate for a Gaza ceasefire. The killing of Ismail Haniyeh marks the highest ranking death of a Hamas political official since the war in Gaza began. He was not only a high-ranking official, the political head of Hamas, he was the chief negotiator with Iran for a ceasefire. And I think the most significant part, Dr. Paul, is that Israel assassinated him on Iranian soil in Tehran while he was a guest of the Iranian government at the inauguration of the new president. So this wasn't just yet another Israeli targeted killing of a senior official, which they do periodically, pretty often. This was sending a sign. And the sign was, you can't even protect a foreign guest in Tehran for a major event like a presidential inauguration. It was meant to humiliate Iran, to humiliate the new Iranian government. And I think as such, it was very effective. What remains to be seen is how Iran will respond to not only the attack on its sovereignty, but its humiliation at the hands of Tel Aviv.
And that's why we can expect this to expand, because they can't go in there and do nothing because of what the people will think and say, because the people have a vote on this, and most of it can be felt by, of course, stirring up the people, like they can in Israel stir up the people to support the government, and then they stir up the people in the United States to provide the money and weapons to participate in this. But you know, the principle of assassination, the one thing that seemed to go over the line, and like this one you mentioned sounds like going over the line. Why are they doing this on such a date? But they go over the line, but just to kill a scientist.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
And that's done, and so it's endless war, and it isn't like it's a modified war where nobody dies. A lot of people die, because look at what's happening in Gaza and Israel. You know, that was tit for tat, and now it's totally out of control. And the rhetoric is outrageous. You know, total destruction. You know, and both sides participate in the language, but I think the only thing that we have a moral right to be outraged about is the money, United States money. And I keep thinking that one thing that the politicians don't use enough, if they object to this, is the money is stolen. You know, the money that we use to get involved in these things, to buy the weapons, it's stolen from the American people. It's like if you had an armed guard go into houses, each house, and do not knock on the door and march in and say, here we are the defense force, and you will give us $1,000. If you don't, you're going to get shot. So they keep up, and they keep $1,000, and all of a sudden that $1,000 goes into the pot, and you buy weapons and subsidize the military-industrial complex. But people would object to that if they knew it, but that's the morality of it all. But what they do is they even have a slick little trick. Well, we don't have to do that. What we'll do is just counterfeit the money. Counterfeit the money. We won't have to go with with armaments to steal it from a person's household, because people wouldn't like that. But they shouldn't like what's going on now either, because they're the ones who are paying for it. So there's the people who have the cost of living very painful, and also the people who are getting very rich. You'd think that logic would people wake up and say, you know, that's right. Why are we participating in this? And maybe we can't tell Israel and Iran and everybody else exactly what to do. We could quit financing them. You know,
that's the key.
That would be a big change.
Well, you have the situation where Netanyahu goes home with 58 standing ovations, and it's a perfect storm for him, because he has essentially a headless U.S. administration. We haven't seen Biden. He's very clearly not in charge now. He's not running again, so even if he were with his full faculties in full charge of the government, he would be a lame duck on steroids. But he's completely gone. All Netanyahu has is a Congress absolutely in adoration of him. So he goes home and says, look, we're going for broke. And it wasn't just the Hamas leader in Tehran that was hit over the last 24 hours. They actually bombed 3 countries. There was the Hamas leader in Tehran. They also had a major bombing inside heavily populated Beirut. They killed a bunch of kids. They injured a lot of innocent people, but they took out a Hezbollah leader there in Beirut. And now I'm just getting something coming over my wire here saying that they may have actually assassinated the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Forces in Damascus in Syria. So in roughly 24 hours, Israel has bombed Lebanon, Iran, and Syria. So they're definitely taking advantage of the fact that there is no U.S. administration to do anything about it, and they have admitted it. The U.S. administration is AWOL. Put up this next clip. There's a couple of journalists have commented on this. Now here's Michael Young, a journalist from the region, saying an incredible quote by Blinken, quote, this is about the killing of the Hamas leader in Tehran. Blinken says, the Secretary of State of the United States, Dr. Paul says, this is something we were not aware of or involved in. It's very hard to speculate, end quote. And Michael Young commented, he wasn't aware of a killing that could undermine the prime U.S. aim of avoiding a regional war? Breathtaking incompetence is on display, is what this one journalist says.
You know, some people were pointing this out in a very immediate reaction and who really won politically. And it looks like, Yahoo did. He came over here and he had the American Congress groveling at his feet, promising to get the money and the weapons that they need. And then they went over and in order to assist, at least a pretense of a victory by expanding the war is what they're doing, targeting the leaders, that were targeted on purpose. And the only thing they're going to achieve is an escalation of the war. But he's applauded for this. And because, I imagine he's in better shape than he was 6 months ago now.
Yeah.
And even when we had a Democratic leader in this country say they ought to have an election or we don't like Netanyahu anymore, whether he was clapping the other day.
Yeah. That was Schumer who said that, yeah. Well, here's some more reaction. Now, Joshua Landis is a professor. He knows the region very well. He knows Syria very well. And I would consider him relatively objective on these issues. I don't see him taking a hard side on either type. Put on that next clip, if you will, because he has some good insights here. Now, Professor Joshua Landis, I think he's at Oklahoma University, if I'm not mistaken. He says, he quoted Qatar's prime minister, quote, how can Israeli-Palestinian mediation succeed when one party assassinates the negotiator on the other side? And that's exactly what happened. So Joshua Landis adds, Bill Burns, that's the head of our CIA, is in the midst of negotiations, but, added Professor Landis, Blinken said he didn't know what was going on. Israel doesn't tell him. So he basically said, I have no idea. They don't tell me, don't ask me. But here we are getting dragged into this war. And now as to the Beirut killing, put that next one up. This is from a Zero Hedge article, just to let you know. This happened just before the Iran attack. Taking out Haniyeh was the second high-profile assassination attributed by Israel in a matter of hours, following the Tuesday airstrikes in Beirut that killed Hezbollah top military leader and right-hand man to Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. That attack was a massive and in the neighborhood in buildings in the south of the capital, with Lebanon's health ministry saying 3 people, including 2 children, had been killed, with at least 74 wounded. So there you have that. And just one more on this same article, if you go to the next one here. So this is now, there are emerging reports of another Israeli raid on Damascus, which I just mentioned. So then later on, adding to this volatile mix, the U.S. military also overnight launched its first military attack in Iraq in months. So we're starting another war too, reportedly striking militia combatants who attempted to launch a drone attack. The Pentagon is calling on the new military action, they're calling it a defensive strike. Now, I underline this part. The U.S. State Department and U.S. administration have reportedly expressed confusion at the rapid series of Israeli actions in the last hours. Confusion. They have no idea what's going on.
If I had a chance to give advice to the State Department, I would say, well, you get the information. Don't you talk to the president? Won't he straighten you out? Well, that doesn't work out too well either. But the message is, it's the deep state.
Yeah.
Call the deep state. See if there are numbers in the book, and call them up and ask them to come over and talk to you. They might have an explanation, but that's not, of course, going to happen because that's rather secretive. National security has to be kept secret, or somebody might abuse it. So, but you can't depend on the administration. I don't think you can you can hope on the party affiliation, but even that hasn't been rock solid. You know, we've had some experience with both parties. They're very much involved in the defending and expanding the empire. You know, and that's been going on for a long time. But it's no wonder. I guess we'd be surprised if they really knew. But if they did know, are they going to tell you? They're going to lie to you.
Yeah.
They're going to just lie. Oh, we didn't know what was going on there. And they might have just, you know, followed the order and wrote the directions for it. So that is healthy because, you know, it's not like it's just you and I talking this way, because a lot of Americans are waking up to saying, you know, we're losing trust in our government. You know, in the recent deal with Trump and the attempted assassination, this has awakened a lot of people too, because I think my first statement still holds. They're not going to find out exactly what went on there, and it looks like there's a lot of nonsense going on, but nobody's going to be accused of and proven to have participated and helped the odds or promoted the odds of Trump getting assassinated.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to jail. You know, that's not going to happen. But it's a real pity that we live in a situation where lying is okay. It's protecting the empire, and it's considered good. You know, that's the noble lie, because we're doing it for safety. We're doing it to protect our people at home. Yeah. We have to protect people because the terrorists are coming. But maybe the terrorists are already here. Yeah. And maybe they've just added some, some troops coming in over the border too.
I don't know what's worse, though, if they're lying or if they're telling the truth. Because on the one hand, we give Israel all the money and all the bombs, and then the administration says, don't blame us. We don't know what they're doing. Well, then don't give them the bombs and don't give them the money. You know, I mean, they don't want to, they want to have it both ways. But so I wanted to do a couple more tweets because I think it kind of captures the sense of the reaction of what's happening. Now, here's another journalist, Alex Shams. He puts out a post saying Israel saying they want a ceasefire, and then assassinating the guy they would negotiate it with is a pretty clear sign of how serious Israel is about diplomacy. Now, Dan Cohen, who's a filmmaker who I know and is a very good guy, as I mentioned, I think he's lived in Israel. He says it's been long clear. If you put the next one on, please. It's long been clear that Israel will not let the war end in a negotiated settlement. The assassination of Ismail Haniyeh made it undeniable. It's a zero-sum game. It's Israel or the axis of resistance, and time is not on Israel's side. Now, that's his view. Now, Glenn Greenwald chimed in. If you put the next one on, this is interesting because this is Lloyd Austin's response to the whole thing. So Israel lashes out and hits Beirut, Lebanon, hits Tehran, Iran, and hits Damascus, Syria. And what does Lloyd Austin say? Quote, "We will help defend Israel. You saw us doing that in April. You can expect us doing that again." So he's basically saying we've got their back no matter what they do. So Greenwald says, as a result of Israel's various conflicts with its neighbors, the Middle East faces a very serious risk of all regional war. Lloyd Austin has said the U.S. will intervene militarily on Israel's side. But is the U.S. president involved? What does Kamala think about any of this? To which Matthew Petty, who's another journalist, made a very good point on that same topic. If you put the other one, there is a secret third option. Now, I think this is critical. Sorry to do so many of these, Dr. Paul, but I think this is what we're really talking about right now. They know, they mean Israel, they know they can't fight this war, but they can make it bad enough that Americans have to. And I think that's a very good point. And I think Israel is taking advantage of the fact that we have a headless administration of pushing this scenario. And Austin is like, we got your back, guys. Do whatever you want.
You know, sometimes you can't believe what's going on. And one is that, Biden got into trouble. I think the worst thing he did, he had lousy, stinking anti-liberty policies.
Yeah, for sure.
But there were also other problems. Some people suggested there may be a health problem. And yet the people came around to say enough is enough, especially the only people that get a vote are the ones that donate money. They can dictate the rules. But that's called democracy. And so just think they finally get agreement among the money people, and they say no more money, you're out. And so they got rid of him without a vote.
Yeah.
You know, they just said goodbye. And then Biden, shift the gears to Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, did they have a little vote for that?
No.
Same old thing.
That's
Same
our
old
democracy. We don't have to vote on that.
No, we just pretend we are. And of course, pure democracy does lead to, and I think it's the democracy we've had over the years of the dictatorship of the majority. All you have to do is get a lot of money and manipulate the majority and know how to manipulate elections. So that doesn't solve the problem. So what do? When the insiders decide, we've had enough of this guy, we're going to get rid of him. And Kamala, she's had her problems, but she's so much better. Yet every poll, she spent a day or two in the election. She was the worst candidate.
Yeah.
And now that they're appointing her, and she is always rated lower than the president.
Yeah,
so
way
here
lower.
we are, a country that the strings are being pulled, and in their infinite wisdom, they take somebody that's not too good and they found somebody that's probably worse.
Probably worse.
What a deal.
And raise her up.
Wake up, America.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I wanted to mention one other thing briefly, and that's the Secret Service acting director. He went before Congress. He went before the Senate, I believe, and it was, as you watched a little bit, I didn't, rough hearing. But here's, Hedge ran a piece from the Epoch Times. Here's the takeaway now. He comes off, go to the next one, please. So Cheadle, the woman who quit, she came off pretty badly, and we talked about that last week. Did not do well. Well, here's the guy who is now taking over for her, and the headline is, New Secret Service Director announces changes in wake of Trump assassination attempt. Secret Service is making changes in the wake of the assassination attempt against former President Trump. The new acting director announced on the 30th. This is, his name is Rowe. Put the next one on. It may sound pretty good. What I saw made me ashamed, Mr. Rowe told two U.S. senators on Capitol Hill. As a career law enforcement officer and 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. And he added, to prevent similar lapses in the future, I've directed our personnel to ensure every event site security plan is thoroughly vetted, et cetera, et cetera. He is going to really beef things up, and he's going to reform things.
You know, how you identify a nihilist that does not believe that you can or even search for truth is one thing. But, and you can identify them because they never have shame.
Yeah.
They don't apologize. But it looks like he wants to be seen as a non-nihilist.
Yeah, real reformer.
Well, we recognize that. All we have to do is improve our rules and regulations and monitor. And I don't think that's going to solve the problem. I think the things are going to get worse rather than better.
And here's the thing. Here's the great reformer. Well, it turns out this is the same guy who, if you put the next clip up, here's the same guy. He said, it's shameful that they didn't have the resources. And here's from yesterday. Acting Secret Service chief played key role in limiting the resources for Trump. So here's a guy, Ronald Rowe, the guy who was telling the Senate, we're going to reform. Well, it turns out Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe was directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, to former President Trump's rallies.
It proves my point. He's a nihilist. He doesn't believe in truth,
Yeah.
and he's not really apologetic.
Yeah.
They pretend they are. Well, we're really for peace. You know, even in the midst of all that, got the president to say, "Yeah, we were seeking peace, and we'd rather Israel not do so much bombing and killing." But they never say, and if you do it one more day, you're going to get no more money stolen from the American people.
Yeah.
That would be very popular.
Isn't it so classic Washington, though? They investigate themselves and they realize, well, some mistakes were made, but we need a lot more resources to correct those mistakes, maybe a couple $100 billion more.
They pretend to correct the mistakes. What they're doing is cover the mistakes. They have to cover their tracks and make sure that the people never learn the truth. And they do that forever. So many of the commissions are set up to just hide the truth or hide the mistakes or hide the intent. It can be one of either one. So that's what it's for. And this talk. They're not serious.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, Daniel, eventually people do wake up, and I still hark back to the enlightenment during the COVID.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people did change, even though I think they've let their guard down because they're still using strategy to waiting for the next created epidemic.
Yeah.
They're not going to give up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I'm going to close out, Dr. Paul, by, if you put that final clip up, reminding everyone this is the final day. Actually, the end of tomorrow is the very last chance to apply for the 2024 Ron Paul Scholars Seminar. Now, you can see here from the past, Representative Thomas Massey giving a keynote speech to our scholars. This is a partial group. It's a great program. This year, the keynote will be delivered by none other than Judge Andrew Napolitano. It's a great one-day seminar. The scholarships are there for those who are accepted. The application is not very hard, but this is going to be your last 36 hours to fill it out. So get those filled out. We already have a huge response. The competition is very strong. If we get well-qualified applicants, we might be able to expand it a little bit and have more than we originally planned for, but you got to get your application in to be considered. I have not added a link in, but I will add one to the description as soon as the show is finished. So upper division undergrads, grad students, make the application, and we'll see you in August.
Very
Over to
good.
you, Dr. Paul.
I strongly endorse this program that Daniel has developed, because reaching out to young people is very important. Reaching out with a message is very important, but I got to warn them about something. Because if you come in and you sort of have a vague interest and you want to come and just look into it, you're liable to be exposed to some ideas that you didn't fully endorse before. And may grasp hold of these things. It's called the ideas of liberty. If that happens, your life could become miserable because you will have a compulsion to want to spread the message, because real liberty requires some responsibility. And I think that a lot of young people I've met, have followed through after they've been introduced to these ideas and feel compelled to participate in spreading the message. And I think that's wonderful, but you got to be warning. You will have to report. The other thing is, if people ask, what exactly do you want me to do? And the neat thing is you can use any talent you have or anything you want to do, and there's always a job and a place. Our job that we see is trying to spread the message. So if there's a person out there, either young or young at heart, that want to understand more about the principles of liberty and how to spread that message, the more excited we get. So please pay close attention to our invitation to our conferences, because that's where the real work is done. I want to thank everybody today for tuning in to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.